everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video we have my September wrap up and I have a lot to talk about. I feel some good, some bad, and just some plain ugly. No, I'm kidding. Or am I? Before we get started, you guys already know the drill. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Also, go ahead and turn on notifications so you guys can be updated every single time I upload. And go ahead and follow me on social media. I'll have my Instagram right here. And with that being said, let's get right into the video. Also, as a disclaimer, I do want to say that if I'm sweating throughout the video, it is because even though it's October, it's like 80 degrees outside. It's really bad, so you guys can probably tell what I'm going through right now with the lights and everything. I'm like scorching. Anyways, so for today's wrap up, or this month's wrap up, I ended up reading 11 books, which if you guys saw on my TBR, I had 13 that I want to get done with, and I ended up getting done with 11, which is pretty good, and I'll kind of tell you guys why I decided to stick with 11 instead of 13. But anyways, let's just get started. The first two books that I read was Elite and The One, and this is part of the Selection series. There is 5 books in that series, but before I had picked up the whole entire collection, I didn't realize that in reality the other two are more of a spin-off, I think. Well, not a spin-off, but it doesn't talk about the main characters. This kind of talks about, I don't know, I don't want to spoil it, so that is why I decided not to read the other two. I will eventually read them, but I felt like this was a nice closure for me as of right now. But for November, I think I will be reading the other two. Anyways, so I gave both of these a 4. I know it's high there, but I just really like them. And even though they're very they're like guilty pleasure, I really like them. I like the storyline. It makes me very giddy and happy, and I was really rooting for the romance. And I'm not going to go too much into it because, like I said, this is a sequel and this is the 3rd book, so I can't go into it without spoiling a lot of things. But I feel like a lot of people are well informed in this story because it's pretty old books. But yeah, I gave them a 4. Only thing that I would have liked is for them to have been a little bit longer. I felt like I really wanted more towards the end. I was like, oh, can I read another with them? But I was done. So 4 out of 5. I really like them. The next book that we have, well, I'm kind of putting them in order of how I read them. I ended up reading Darling Rose Gold, which I was really looking forward to reading. And this is basically following Rose Gold and also her mother, Patty. Patty has been in jail, I believe, for the last 5 years because she suffers from that syndrome. I can't think of the name right now, where you like poison your children to make it, I'm sorry to laugh, but it's just like, who does that, right? Poisons her child to make her seem sick. And this, I feel like it's very inspired off of the real life story of, what's her name? Gypsy Rose, and even the name of the book is very similar. So if you guys have are familiar with that story or the show The Act, I think this was kind of a take on it. It's not 100% with the show or the story. It's not supposed to. It's just kind of something familiar to that. So if you're familiar with that, you would understand what this book's about. So anyways, this book is about Rose Gold, and she decides to take in her mother after her mom spent 5 years serving her sentence in jail, and now she's taking her back, and she has a lot of plans for her mom regarding what the mom did to her. So it's kind of a revenge type of book, and I don't know, I was expecting something else from it. I felt like a lot of the book was just the aftermath of what happened to Rose Gold after her mom went to jail. That's what the book focused on the most. And then it also gave us perspective of Patty and her thought process once she's out of jail, and how she basically finds that she did not do anything wrong. And for the most part, it was good. I felt bad for Rose Gold, but at the same time, let me down a lot, especially the ending. I didn't love it. I didn't love it. I wished it had just been different. I thought it was going to be different. I really wanted to see more of Rose Gold and the mom, and more of like something more like revengey. Is that even a word? Probably not. But I wanted to see more with that relationship, and I just felt like everything felt really rushed. Towards the end, the twist is kind of like unnecessary almost. I don't know. I didn't love it. I have to say I love the cover, so I'm definitely, this is a keeper because of the cover. But I only rated this 2.5, which is not that good, but I really can't say much without spoiling it. But it wasn't my favorite. I wished it had gone another route. Let's put it that way. And that is all I will say about this book. So the next book I grabbed was Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. I've actually really come to like her style of writing, and I've just been grabbing a lot of her books lately. So this book mainly follows Laurel, which is a divorced mom who lost her child disappeared one day. Her child Ellie disappeared, and she was a very brilliant girl, very smart, just great in school and everything. One day she headed to the library and never came back. And so, you know, it's kind of following Laurel's story from that point on. Like, you know, she got a divorce and all of these things, and now it's been, I think, like 10 years since Ellie's been gone, and she's trying to just kind of move on in a way. And she meets a very interesting man in a coffee shop one day, and she kind of shares a pie with him, with a stranger. She shares pie with him, and she starts a relationship with this man, and it all seems great and amazing until she meets the daughter of this man. And the daughter looks very familiar to Ellie. She looks similar to her. It reminds Laurel of her lost daughter. And she kind of goes on a mission to find out what happened to Ellie, because she's like inspired from seeing this child. And so we're following that. And then at the same time, we also have the perspective of Ellie, who is kind of sort of telling us what happened leading to the day she disappeared, and then afterwards. And it was a very interesting story. I did enjoy it. It was a little bit bizarre. Some things were a little bit weird and not very, like, I'm like talking about one scene in specific where I feel like I didn't get a good clarification or like a good explanation of what happened. But for the most part, it was very good. It's a sad book. I felt like it was sad just because you're going also through Ellie's experience and her side of the story. You can probably figure out that it's not the best, and so it is sad getting into her mindset, but it was pretty good. The ending was solid. It wasn't one of the greatest books I've ever read, but it was good. The only thing I will say is that I kind of knew all along where this was going, so that kind of not made it a 4 for me. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I knew where it was going the whole time, but it was still very interesting. But I knew what was happening. But yeah, it was a really good book, and I definitely recommend it. And yeah, so following that, I was sort of in the Lisa Jewell train, and I ended up reading The Family Upstairs, and this was Really good book. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. And in this story, we are following 3 characters. And we are following Libby, who just turned 25 years old, and she found out, well, first of all, she's an adopted child. And when she turned 25, she found out that she was the sole inheritor of this, like, big mansion. And she goes off to kind of find out what happened to her biological family, and it's just interesting seeing her also like go back to the house and see how things were left off. Her parents were killed in an almost packed cult sort of way. That's how they explain it in the book, that they were found dead with a letter saying that they had killed themselves, and both her mom and her dad. And her siblings, which is Lucy and Henry, were never found. So that's kind of it. So we're following Libby as she's trying to figure out what happened the night her parents died, what happened to her siblings, and then we're also following Lucy, which is another character, which I won't say much about her without spoiling certain things, but I would just say it's another character that you don't really know why she's in the story. For a long time, every time I got to her chapter, I was kind of like, ugh, why am I in this chapter? I don't really care about Lucy. But later on she does have an importance to the book. I just felt like her perspective of things were unnecessary, but anyway, I digress. So then we also follow Henry, and Henry is the older sibling, or I think the middle child, I'm not sure. He's the sibling of Libby as well, and he takes us back to 1989, before anything happened, before Libby was even born. And I loved his perspective because he could just tell you what was going on in the house. I won't really tell you because it would sort of spoil a lot of things, but let's just say his perspective of everything was awesome because he was telling you what was happening even before Libby had even been born, and it was just really interesting. At first I thought this was going to be kind of ghost and spirits. It's not. It's more of like family drama, which I feel like Lisa Jewell tends to go that route a lot. But this was extremely interesting. It was really good. Give it a 4 out of 5. It's not a 5 out of 5 because A, I didn't really like Lucy's perspective. I didn't think it was necessary. And B, I did not like the ending that much, which was a little disappointing. But for the most part, it was really good and I enjoyed every single page. So, well, except for Lucy's part. Unnecessary. But it was a really good story, and when you find out a lot of things, it's just really interesting. So, good book. Really good one. Next up, we have The Two Lives of Lydia Bird. And so, this book follows Lydia Bird, and she has just lost her fiance, Freddie, yeah, and he passed away in a car crash, and you kind of follow the aftermath of that. She was with him for about a decade. They were high school sweethearts, and they were about to get married. They were engaged, and he passed away suddenly, obviously. And so we kind of follow the aftermath of her grieving for Freddie, really going through it. And at one point, she discovers that by taking sleeping medication, she can go back to a world where Freddie is still alive. And so she kind of comes back and forth through this fantasy world in her dreams where everything is kind of going the way that everything should have, and then coming back to reality and facing the fact that Freddie is actually not alive. Going into this book, I thought it was going to be more heavy on the romance, because inside it does say 2 lives, 2 loves, 1 impossible choice. So I thought, okay, she's going to also fall in love with somebody else in the life where Freddie is no longer with her. And that is kind of how I went into the book thinking. But boy, I was kind of right, but I was wrong. So this book, it's not a romance on like you're gonna feel giddy. Well, you kind of will, but it's not focused on a romance really after Freddy. There is some romance, but it's not the sole focus. I want to get that out there. I ended up giving this book a 5 out of 5 because I loved it. I loved every single page. I was working and I couldn't wait until I could just stop what I was doing and go and read what was going on. I can see this doesn't have the best reviews I've seen, and I can see how people might not think it's that good, but it's very good and it's very sincere with the whole grieving process. And I just really liked how it showed the raw side of it and how, you know, most of the things that she goes through after losing someone she loved and someone so close to her, everything she describes is on the spot. It is exactly like that, and you do dream about these people. You know, me have going through something like that. Not that I lost a fiance or anything like that, but you guys probably know that I have lost someone really important to me. And yeah, everything she describes in the book is very relatable. She goes to sleep and imagines this life with this person, and absolutely that is what we go through. Obviously she has the help of sleeping pills, and she goes into a more kind of magical aspect of it. And you know, us over here, we do, like, I've had times where I go to sleep and I do have a life where I'm like, it's different and I want to stay there, but you obviously can't because you know it's a dream. And so I really love the fact that even though she was in this dream, she knew that everything there didn't truly exist. I don't really know how to explain it. Sorry, this book gets me like a little emotional. It's just a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I really liked her character. I sometimes find characters annoying, but I really liked her character, and I really also loved her love interest in the other, like in the reality world. Freddy was actually not my favorite person in the world, which is, I felt bad for him because he had passed away so young, but he wasn't my favorite. I didn't think they were like a good couple, but she loved him, so whatever. But yeah, it's a really good book. I really loved it, and I would definitely read it again. It's just, it's so beautiful. So if you guys want to read something that you in a way can relate to, if you've ever been through something like that, this is a book to read. But at the same time, it's not like super sad. It is emotional at parts, but it's not like a sad story. It's a nice kind of moving on type of book, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know what to say. The next book is a thriller sort of investigation type of book, and is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And this book follows Pip or Pipe or Piper, I have no idea. She's a senior in high school, and she has a research paper to do, and she focuses on the story of her town, of this high school guy named Sal, who was blamed of murdering his girlfriend, and he ended up committing suicide a few days after the girlfriend disappeared. And this book was really good. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I really loved it. Every single page was so interesting, was so engaging. You go back and forth with her, like writing notes and then like reading text messages and all like that, and it sort of just feels like you're investigating as well. You go through like looking at documents like this from like the police and stuff like that. interviews with like a police officer and the suspect, and everything is just really, really interesting. She doesn't believe that Sal actually murdered the girl. Her name's Andy. She believes he is innocent. So she's kind of on the route of either proving his innocence or being disappointed that he did end up killing her. So it's really, really interesting. I really liked it. Every single page was good. The ending was great. I loved it. 5 out of 5. The whole story was just awesome. And I believe there's a sequel. I don't know if it goes with the same character because I felt like it concluded very well. So I'm not sure, but I will be definitely picking up the sequel to this because I really liked it. So I definitely recommend it. Again, it's kind of investigation sort of thing. And I will add that I did not know what was happening in this book. I kind of knew who was the bad person, but then it tricked me a little bit. So it was just good. I definitely recommend it. It was a good read. And yeah. After that, I went ahead and read Mexican Gothic. And actually, now that I think about it, I should have left this for October, but I didn't. This was also a really good book. We are following Noemi, and she is a very like high class socialite in like the 1950s, I feel, or like I don't know what year. She lives in Mexico, and she's kind of, you know, she's used to the parties and the big dresses, and it's just really, really cool. But she ends up having to go to this place called the High Place to take care of her cousin. Her cousin is married to this white guy. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And the cousin starts sending letter to her father saying that things are weird over there, that she needs help, that she's in trouble. So Noemi's father decides to send her to kind of go and check up on her cousin, make sure everything is good. And she ends up going to High Place, and a lot of weird things happen. Just a lot of weird, crazy things end up happening there. And it was good. I was interested in every single page. I gave it a 4 out of 5. And the reason it's not a 5 out of 5 is because certain things were really descriptive. Like there was a lot of like body horror, I feel. Is that the right word to say? Yeah, like things growing out of the body. I didn't love that. That was actually really disgusting, especially reading about it. But the story was good. It was sort of what I thought was happening. Ended up being what was happening, but it was unique in its own way. I hate these like wrap-ups because I can't say what it is without spoiling the whole entire book. But it is good. 4 out of 5. It's a good story. It's kind of, in a way, I will say it's your average haunted house type of place. Is it though? Not necessarily. Kind of. Read it. It's good. 4 out of 5. It's good. Then I ended up reading You Had Me At Ola by Alexis Daria. In this book, we are following these two characters who are actors, and they are filming this new TV show called Carmen in Charge. And we are basically following Jasmine for the most part, and she is a recently winner of an Emmy Award for Best Supporting Actress in one of her last projects, but she's also dealing with a lot of tabloid rumors and just a really like bad press because she was stumped by her musician boyfriend in a really horrible way. And so she's dealing with that, and she really just wants to prove herself in this new show. And she wants to show that she's not just kind of like a tabloid gossip actress, that she has talent, and she just wants to show the world, right? Okay. Then we're following Ashton. Ashton is 40 years old, and he's been doing telenovelas for a really, really long time. He is like the heartthrob of the telenovelas, but he started to get into this show because he wants to get more into the Hollywood scene. So he wants to do more Hollywood instead of telenovelas, and he thinks that this show, it's kind of the way to introduce him to the Hollywood audience. And they end up having attraction towards each other. That's what I can say. I ended up giving the, okay, I'm just gonna say it, I hated this book. I hated this book. I don't know if I was just too excited for it. I was too hyped because of where it was set up. It was gonna be like a romance on set, and I was really excited, but it was such a bad book. So I gave it a 2 out of 5, and the only reason I gave it a 2 out of 5 and not a 1 out of 5 is because I really liked the diversity in the book. I really liked that they were like Latino characters, and most of the cast was Latino. That was great. I like the representation of that. But overall, it was not a good book whatsoever. I never saw chemistry between them. Never. The whole book was about the romance, but I never saw chemistry between them. Not once. Not once did I felt good about their interaction. I was not interested. I couldn't have cared less, to be honest, about them. And at one point, I think halfway through the book, I was just like, you know what, this is pointless. I'm just not gonna read it. But I don't like being that person, so I pulled through and I read the whole thing. I didn't like that they were he was 40 years old, she was a 30-year-old. They had good acting experience, yet they acted like that was their first project. They acted like teenagers. It was just ridiculous. I could do a whole rant about this book. I have so much opinions about it. It was not good. 2 out of 5, you guys, and I would give it a 1 out of 5, but I'm gonna give it a 2 because I like the Latino representation. But overall, I didn't like it. I wish I could go more into detail. I probably will do a video more about it, but I will just tell you guys that they're extremely immature and there is absolutely no love there. I cringed every single time they had like an intimate moment in the book. I was cringing so hard. I was like, how did we get here? Because I see no love between them whatsoever. So I did not like that one. Nope. 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 Next up, we have another horrible book. We have The Lost by Natasha Preston. And at first, I thought going into this book, I thought it was going to be something really different to what it actually was. I thought it was about this girl that was going to... Oh, another Piper. Oh my god, how many Pipers? That she was going to go and kind of... So, okay, it's about this town where teenagers have gone missing, and Piper is really interested about what is going on, where are they going, are they really runaways, or is something bad happening? And at first I thought that's where it was going to go, like it was going to like see her investigating what was happening. It did not go that way. It was a very fast-paced book. I will say that I read it in one night. I enjoyed it. I was really happy reading the book. And so you kind of follow her making just bad decision after bad decision. She ends up putting herself in a very compromising situation, and she's taken hostage. It happens in like the second chapter, so it's not a spoiler. She gets kidnapped, and we kind of follow her through that, through her experience of being kidnapped. And it's interesting. I really liked it. I didn't think it was the best book, but I liked it. I thought the point was good. I thought what was happening was like interesting. Again, I was reading it extremely quickly because I was just really intrigued, and I was really just wanting to know what was going to happen to her. And then I got to the last like 10 pages of the book, and it went from being like a 3.5 to a 2. Not even a 2. I would give this a 1. No, I'm gonna give it a 2.5 because overall it was a good book, but the ending was, I don't want to say bad, because it wasn't bad. It was terrible. The ending was terrible. It almost felt as if the author was like on a time crunch and they told her, you have to put this book out there, and she just couldn't finish it. And that is that. And that was so disappointing because it was a good book for the most part. It was interesting. Not the best story, but it was interesting. But the ending was so horrible that it just went all the way down. From like a 3.5 or like almost a 4 all the way down to a 2.5 because it was ridiculous. I almost felt as if I had spent the last 3 hours of my life wasted. Like I wanted to throw this book across the room. I don't want to talk about it anymore because it just makes me mad to even look at it. Alright, you guys, last book before I melt in this room. I have like my little fan here. Just to like, ugh, it's just so bad in here. Anyways, so the last book that I read, Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Right? Is that how you say his name? Pretty sure. This was such a good book. 5 out of 5. I loved it. So this is about, I don't even know her name. What was Maggie? So we are following Maggie, who her father just passed away, and she ended up inheriting the mansion that she used to live as a child, who also inspired the book that her dad wrote. So her dad wrote a book about his experience, about his family's experience in that house and how it was haunted and how horrible things happen in that home. And she sort of has this difficult relationship with her dad because even though she loves him and loves everything he did for her, at the same time she feels this burden from this book because she has always lived a very difficult life because of the book, and she also feels like her dad lied throughout his entire life. She doesn't have any recollection of anything of the things being said on the book. She thinks it's a complete lie, that the house was not haunted, and she's just really sort of upset with her dad because of the book. She doesn't understand why it had to happen because according to her, the house was not haunted. So once the dad passes away, she ends up inheriting all of his money and then finds out that she's also the inheritor of the mansion, that he never got rid of it. So she is a kind of a flipper-flopper type of girl, and so she wants to go back to the house and flip it so that she can get a revenue out of it. She wants to sell it. And so she goes back to the house to get it ready to get it sold, but at the same time she really is going back to investigate and to kind of figure out if the house is really haunted or if her dad has been lying the whole time. So we kind of follow her in the house and weird things start happening, and then she's kind of confused as if, is it really something going on? Was her dad probably right this whole time? You are gonna have to find out by reading it, but I loved it. I read it, I think, in like 2 nights, and I was freaked out, you guys. I was freaked out. I think at one point it was like 2 in the morning, and I was reading, because it's very interesting. It's kind of a book within a book. So we have her perspective of what's going on and her, you know, remodeling the house or trying to work on the house, and then we're also getting the perspective of the book her dad wrote. So we're getting parts of the book and just like reading parts of the book the dad wrote, and those parts are so creepy. They're so scary. So I gave it a 5 out of 5. I loved it, thought it was awesome. The ending was strong, never saw it coming, good twist in there, good storyline, loved every second of it. It scared me. I wished I had read it for October. Awesome book. One of my favorites all time right now, yeah, for sure. And I'm really interested in reading other books by him. So I'm not going to buy them because I actually have a huge haul to show you guys later. But I think next up I'll be buying the rest of his books. I think he has like 3 others, and I really want to read them because I love his style of writing. It's perfect, and I just love the story. It was great. There's not much else I can say it. Please read it. It's amazing. 5 out of 5. How many times do I have to say that? I don't know. Alright, you guys, so that is it for this video. I know it was very long, but I had a lot to say, so I don't feel that bad. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure, if you guys do like these type of videos, make sure to give me a like so I kind of know to continue doing them. And with that being said, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys on my next video.